Hi, I'm Jalen Rose, and welcome to the Renaissance Man podcast, proudly presented by the New York Post, a show where we cover trends in fashion, entertainment, current events, and everything in between. Our next guest is one of my favorite people in the entertainment space, who also happens to be 1/3 of the Power 105 morning show, the legendary Breakfast Club, which has been nationally syndicated, I believe, for about 10 years.
Yeah,
But
about
he's
five,
also,
six.
getting it, and a New York Times best-selling author, and also an entrepreneur, the creator of the Black Effect Podcast Network. It's my honor for you to join me, my brother, Charlamagne Tha God.
The legend, Mr. Jalen Rose. How are you, King?
I'm blessed, family. I appreciate you taking the time.
No, I'm happy to be here.
And I know your history and your background and your journey and everything that you've overcome, but I would like to bring the audience into the fact that you grew up in South Carolina.
Yes, sir. Born in Charleston, raised in a small town called Moncks Corner.
Yeah, so what was it like for you growing up in such a small town and then now becoming essentially a celebrity today?
Oh man, I mean, I grew up a straight country boy. I grew up on a dirt road in Moncks Corner, South Carolina. Like, you know, there was cornfields around my mom and dad's single wide trailer. We used to run through cornfields, run through the woods. But you know, I always I don't know, you always have that spirit. Like, you know, you can call it God, but you just always feel something pushing you, letting you know that, man, you're bigger than these circumstances. Like you can transcend these circumstances. And I had no reason to believe that because there was nobody around me doing what I'm doing now. You know, I mean, you had like the two live Stews, Ryan Stewart and Doug Stewart. You
Love
know,
them, my brothers.
Yeah, they from the crib, they from Moncks Corner, but they're like my sister's age. And then, you know, they went on to work at ESPN and they had the Two Live Stew radio show. So I would see them, but I looked at sports radio differently than I did, you know, the radio that I'm doing. So they were the closest things I had to looking at somebody and saying, oh, that's something that I want to do. So I really don't even know what was that spark that kept making me believe I'm bigger than, you know, Moncks Corner, South Carolina, which is also weird because I don't feel bigger than Moncks Corner, South Carolina. You know what I mean? I feel like I am Moncks Corner, South Carolina. I'm connected to that dirt road still to this day. Like that's a power base for me. I feel like everything I am now is because of those upbringings in Moncks Corner.
I appreciate how you've overcome any adversity that's been thrown your way. I feel like, how long have you been doing this? How long have you been in the multimedia space and using your voice to rally your people?
I started off as an intern in 1998 at Z93 Jams in Charleston, South Carolina. I think I got on the air in like 99. I got on the air as a part-time radio personality in 99. And so since then, I've worked at 6 different radio stations. I worked at 7 radio stations total throughout my 23-year career. Power 105.1 was the 7th station. And, you know, 7 is God's number, man. I've been fired 4 times from radio. So
right.
I've always been that person who felt like, yo, if I'm not using the microphone to actually say something, then what am I doing with it? And I also feel like the times I wasn't responsible with the microphone and I was using the microphone just to do BS, I got my ass handed to me. You know, that's why I always say, you know, I always try to be the perfect balance of ratchetness and righteousness, but I don't know if you can balance ratchetness and righteousness, even though that's just the human experience. I don't know if you can truly balance it. You know, I think that if you lean too much one way, then it'll make the other way, you know, null and void. So instead of calling it ratchet and righteous, I just strive to be human, man. And like I've always felt like with great power comes great responsibility. I've always, regardless of what stage I was at in my career, where I was at in my career, I would always bring on, you know, somebody who I felt like had something to say. I remember getting in trouble in 2000. What year was this? 2001, maybe? 2001, 2002, maybe 03. I don't remember, but I had interviewed the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. It was the 10-year anniversary of the Million Man March. This is Columbia, South Carolina, the Bible Belt.
Right.
And so I was doing youth ministry for Muhammad Mosque number 38 at the time. And so they had a press conference, and you know, I asked the minister a couple questions at the press conference, recorded those. Then he told me to come in his suite. So I went in his suite and he told me press record. I talked to him for like another 30 minutes. So I aired that on the radio. And I remember the program director at the time was like, I don't think you should have done that. You know, because you got to think that's the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in the Bible Belt of Columbia, South Carolina. And I was on Saturday nights, 7 to midnight playing that.
And we saw what happened with Arsenio.
Yeah. Even though the minister's been on Breakfast Club twice. He's been on Breakfast Club twice.
And it's only right that you call yourself the prime minister of pissing people off. So to be fired 4 times, to continue to reinvent yourself, how have you been able to endure when people try to feel like they clapping back?
Well, number one, when it comes to the prime minister of pissing people off, that was me basically doing an Eminem and 8 Mile. You know what I mean? I was owning what everybody was saying about me at the time. You know what I mean? So the prime minister of pissing people off, ruler of rubbing you the wrong way. And it's like, yo, that's not my intention. You know, like even now, like even more so now, that's not my intention. I'm in the business now of like, man, I don't want to hurt nobody. And I think that you don't realize that when you've been doing radio as long as I have, you really don't realize how much you might have impacted somebody in a negative way, you know? And we had Young Thug up here last week. It's the first time I ever had a conversation with Young Thug. And you know, Young Thug historically used to like get at me back in the day. But I used to be getting to him, like, you know, because I'm 43 years old. I grew up on a whole different style of hip hop. Even though I'm from the South, I was just like, what is this over here? Right. And it didn't dawn on me, man. It dawned on me when he was sitting here. He's 30 years old, and he's telling me how much my words hurt him back in the day and how mad he was about it. But I'm like, yo, he was 18, 19. Right. And he said it. He was like, yo, I was an 18, 19-year-old kid coming out of the ghetto just trying to figure things out. And you, Charlamagne, you know, saying things about me. And he was like, man, he said, man, I didn't understand it back then. And it really continued to put things in perspective for me. Just like, I don't want to hurt nobody, man. That's not my intention.
Right. And also like, and I have this balance as well. It's almost like separating church and state. Like your brutal honesty becomes something that we appreciate and gives you the authenticity to make us trust you because we know that you're not bought, you're not purchased. And that's what I try to also have, but also you can function in all situations around all people. So there is a balance, however, to still maintaining your voice. Nobody wants to be donkey of the day. You've made yourself donkey of the day.
Absolutely.
And so, but as somebody that took communications, radio, TV, film in college, I appreciate how well they're written, how smart they are, how researched they are. But all people sometimes see is being the brunt of that donkey of the day. So how is it like for you to carry that day to day, but yet still know that I'm going to keep my authenticity?
I just approach things with more empathy, you know? Even when you say authenticity, I always ask myself, you know, what is that? And what I mean by that is like, I remember, you know, I remember getting caught up in being a caricature of myself. And the reason I got caught up in being a caricature is because when you start having success and people are writing articles about you and you know people are saying things about you online, they calling you the hip hop Howard Stern. In your mind, you're like, oh, that's what y'all like? You know, let me give you more of that. But ultimately, that's kind of what, you know, drove me crazy, you know, trying to be that, trying to live up to that expectation, coming home and my wife is like, who are you? You know what I mean? So it's like, damn, am I really being authentic if that's not truly who I am? So for me, being authentic is just constantly being who you are in whatever moment. Like I know I've probably taken people on a bunch of different journeys watching me, you know, grow over these past 11 years with the Breakfast Club. I didn't have 4 daughters, you know, 11 years ago. I wasn't going to therapy 11 years ago. I didn't have sacred purpose coaches and, you know, doing healing energy work on myself 11 years ago. So I am a different human being. And I know that I approach things with a lot more empathy. I think that I'm still my authentic self. I'm just a different version of the person I was 11 years ago. And I should be. Muhammad Ali said the person at 50 who's the
Yes.
same who's the same as he was at 20, wasted 30 years of his life. So I shouldn't be the same person.
Absolutely. That's what Big Sean said. When I look at pictures of my past, they should look different.
Word up.
And also though, like that level of growth also puts us in a position to now talk about our mental health and being vulnerable, because that was something like I'm 48 and it was almost like, shut up and do it. We'll figure it out if things got tough. Like we know about situations, people getting shot and stabbed and killed, and we've been involved in those things and don't realize the trauma that our community creates for us. So when did you decide that you were gonna start giving seminars and dedicating your social media and dedicating your voice to those topics?
I started going to therapy in 2016. I started going to therapy in 2016 because I was losing it. I just didn't want to go crazy. You know what I mean? Like I felt like I was losing it. Like this when I was wilding. I was, really feeding into the character of Charlamagne and getting all the spoils that come with that. The women and the I never had this much money. So I was really living the life. And I was looking at my dad, right? And I was thinking to myself, like, yo, I don't want to be like my father. I love my father, but I don't want to mess up my family the way I saw my father mess up, our family. You know what I mean? I didn't want to do that to my wife. I didn't want to do that to my daughters. I had 2 daughters at the time. And so it was just like, yo, I really need to be the man. I need to be the best man I can be for them. And plus I've been dealing with panic attacks and anxiety my whole life. I just never knew what it was. I didn't even get a name for it until 2010. After I got fired for the 4th time, I was like 31 years old, 32 years old, back living with my mom. My daughter was like 1 or 2. My wife was back living with her parents, in Moncks Corner, South Carolina. And I just had like a massive anxiety attack. Like one of them ones that I'm like, I know I'm about to die. This is the big one, heart attack. I went to the doctor. The doctor told me the same thing. He always told me, like, oh man, you got a healthy heart. You got an athlete's heart. He was like, but he was the first person to say, do you suffer from anxiety? That sounds like you had a panic attack. And he was like, have you had these before? And I'm like, absolutely. And he was like, are you stressed out about anything? And I'm like, hell yeah. And so in my mind, once he said that, all I was thinking was like, all I got to do is get another radio gig and I'll be fine. Next gig I got was the Breakfast Club. But 4 or 5 years later, I'm having more success than I've ever had in my life, more money than I've ever had in my life. And panic attacks is even more intense now. And I just was like, man, I gotta figure this out. Like, and it actually came in a moment of peace. I was on vacation. I was in one of my favorite places, Anguilla. And I'm sitting at the pool, all my family and everybody's there. And I hadn't felt peace like that in who knows how long. And I was like, how can I feel like this all the time without being on vacation all the time? And my wife was like, go to therapy. And so I started to go. And that just, that started the process of my healing journey. And like, to answer your question, when I started that process in 2016, unbeknownst to me, man, I became a mental health advocate because I didn't have anything else I wanted to talk about. Like I didn't feel genuine, or to you what you said, authentic, coming in here talking about other people when I got my own issues going on. So I just started talking about it, talking about my anxiety and, talking about bouts of depression. And I started talking about going to therapy, and I didn't even know it was connecting with people. And then I put out my 2nd book in 2018, Shook One, Anxiety Playing Tricks on Me. And that literally was a journal I was keeping in therapy. Went and got my man, Dr. Ish Major, to give like the clinical correlations to the things I was going through. And I threw that book out, Jalen, man, and didn't even look back. And I had to go out and promote the book. And I'm realizing as I'm out here, like, I'm not ready to have these conversations. Like these are, I'm not, so I'm a sink or swim type person. So when I'm out there, I'm just talking to the people. I didn't realize what I was saying was resonating with people that much. Then, the emails start coming and the phone calls and people coming up to me telling me they're dealing with the same things. And I remember Tracy Jade, she's Taraji's best friend, and they got the Boris Lawrence Hinton Foundation. I remember she introduced me as a mental health advocate somewhere. And I'm like, I'm not no mental health advocate. And her and Taraji was like, yes, you are. Whether you realize it or not, you are. And so I just kind of realized, man, like, this is what I want my life's work to be. I want to help Black people heal, especially Black men.
And I applaud that so much because, like, I started to realize it was important for me to start being more vulnerable as well. And I think it happened when I wrote my book because, like you said, it had me thinking and talking about stuff that I haven't thought about for years.
Mm-hmm.
And you think you're going to hire somebody to write the book. And I'm like, wait a minute, he wasn't there in 1973 when I was looking at the ground, sitting in the car behind my mother. You know what I mean? Or a lot of the trauma that I started to see growing up. And I saw myself being an education advocate, and I saw people like yourself opening up about your mental, psychological, and emotional issues and owning it. And that's really impressive. And you started doing it through your book. And for me, other ways that I try to get therapy during the day is just try not to be on the phone. Like if I can encourage everybody to do something, I'd at least take 45 minutes to an hour when I'm not on the phone, I'm not on social media, I'm not staring at a computer. I don't care if I'm in a sauna. I don't care if I'm just laying in the bed with my eyes closed. Like that's something that helped me. So for those that you feel like, you know, for whatever reason, don't want to go to therapy, like what would you advise for them to do?
Man, to be honest with you, I can't. I cannot advise you not to go to therapy. Like, I think therapy is the
that
gateway.
Important.
Yeah, yes. I think therapy is the entry point. I think you immediately got to sit down and, you know, have a conversation with somebody. Now, I will say this: there's a great place in Farmington, Michigan. And I'm sure you're very familiar with Farmington, being from the D, but there's a place in Farmington, Michigan called Inception. It's ran by a brother named David McCullough and his wonderful mother. And man, I never have felt stillness like this in my life.
Really?
Until I went to Farmington. And because I had this idea for like a mental health gym. I just didn't know what that would look like. So I just Googled one day mental health gym, and this place came up. So I go to, you know, look at it online. I'm like, yo, this place can't be real. I've never heard of it. So I go to check my DMs to DM them. Brother David had been DMing me. So I flew out there to go check it out. And man, they got this thing called brain training, where you literally sit in this zero gravity chair. They put this cover over your eyes and they check your brain waves, and it's this slow music playing. Yo, when I woke up, I didn't know where I was. I'm like, yo, where did I just go? You know?
Wow. Same
thing with float therapy. They got float therapy in there. I did float therapy for an hour. And what I've seen that place do, to your point, is make your mind sit still. Like literally. And what I realized when people's minds finally sit still, they're open to talk.
Yes.
They're ready to open up. You know, I got my late night talk show now, The God's Honest Truth, on Comedy Central. And I sent my man Chico Bean, comedian Chico Bean, and a rapper from Detroit named Icewear Vezo. I sent them there. And these brothers went through that circuit, and literally after going through that circuit, they sat there and had a whole hour-plus conversation about their trauma and how they want to unpack their traumas. And so if I had to tell everybody, like, you know, something to do before therapy, it would be that, but you cannot skip the step of therapy.
Well, I'm going to make sure I'm doing both. And I'm going to make sure I go check out the place in Farmington.
Oh,
and I'm going to tell them you sent me, because I'm on that spiritual, psychological journey. And also, you mentioned, and big shout and congratulations to your Comedy Central special, The God's Honest Truth. Absolutely. And other heavy hitter, Stephen Colbert, Aaron Magruder. So obviously, you know, it's going to be something I can't look forward to checking out. What can the fans expect?
Well, we in our dark week this week. We had 5 episodes so far. It comes on every Friday night at 10 p.m. on Comedy Central. You can stream it on Paramount Plus. But I just feel like it's me. Like, it's the show that I want to do at 43 years old. It's the show I need to be doing at 43 years old, which is, you know, putting the medicine in the candy. You know what I mean? I want people to laugh and I want people to learn. You know, I'm not a comedian per se, you know what I mean? But I feel like I know how to deliver things in a way that you will be entertained. So, like, you know, the first episode, we talked about the denazification of Germany and how something like that has yet to happen here in America. And, you know, if we did it in America, I would call it a decrackification. Because, you know, because cracker is a term for a racist bigot. And that's what we need to do here in America. We need to decrackify America. And when you find out that America actually helped Germany denazify, which is so strange because Hitler actually said he was inspired by the way America used to treat its Black and indigenous people. It's like, yo, hold up now. Y'all haven't even done anything to rectify what's happening with us here in this country. And, you know, we tackle things like critical race theory, but I call it critical racist theory. I'm just showing that this is just the latest example of this society trying to keep Black people dumb, deaf, and blind. They don't want us to know the true history of ourselves. They know if we know the true history of ourselves, that knowledge itself, man, we start realizing we gods and goddesses, kings and queens.
Yes.
And, you know, we start moving a different way. So
yes.
We talk about those kind of topics. Like I've done a whole mental health episode. I've done an episode on, is social media the devil? You know, and we had my man Tristan Harris, who was on from The Social Dilemma. He was on that episode. If you've seen The Social Dilemma documentary on Netflix, and you know, he talked about how the CEO of LinkedIn says that social media preys on one or more of the 7 deadly sins. Like literally, that's what they lean into. You know, envy, you know, wrath, you know, it feeds off negativity. And when you realize that, yes, you will disconnect. You will disconnect with social media to reconnect with yourself. So yeah, man, it's a great show, and I'm really enjoying doing it, and I feel like this is my future. You know, this is what I've always wanted to do, late night television. You know, I've always wanted to do a mixture of Arsenio Hall meets Bill Maher, Arsenio Hall meets Jon Stewart.
We need that. We need that.
And I think that's what we at. We getting into our groove. We only 5 episodes in, but you know, I think we getting to where we need to be.
Well, don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to come represent.
Absolutely, 100%. We would love to have you on.
Done, done, and done. And before I let you get out of here, I have a rapid fire called Gone in 60 Seconds. You ready to do this?
Let's do it.
What celebrity would you like to make amends with?
What celebrity would I like to make amends with? Oh man, probably Nicki Minaj. Cause me and Nicki used to be really cool. You know what I mean? And yeah, I was very vocal about not liking the Anaconda record. You know, back in the day. And you know, I think Nicki, yeah, definitely Nicki. You know,
well, 50's been on the show recently, and he shouted Nicki. So how about we putting that in the atmosphere right now?
Absolutely, 100%. I got a lot of respect for Nicki. What Nicki has done is you know, unprecedented. Like she revitalized, you know, female hip hop over the past decade. Like all of these new artists, every single one of them, from Cardi to Meg to whoever, they you know, it's because of Nicki. Nicki opening that lane again. So yeah, probably Nicki.
If you could interview Beyonce, what would be the first question you would ask?
Sounds weird, but it's like, how does it feel to be Beyonce?
Yes.
Because Beyonce is like a
Queen Bee.
Verb. Yeah, she's a queen bee, but she's like a verb. Like sometimes you gotta tell people
like B.
Yeah. It's like sometimes you gotta tell people like, yo, you not Beyonce. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's only one Beyonce. So I know that's probably a strange question to ask, but I really would want her. And you can't sit here and tell me she's never thought about that.
Right.
How does it feel to be her, Beyonce? And what's so ill about Beyonce? That's her name. So she's never really been a character. You know what I mean?
Right.
She's not like Jay-Z to Sean Carter. That's Beyonce.
Puff or Diddy, right?
Yeah. So that'd be interesting.
Who would you want to play you in the Charlamagne Tha God feature film?
Oh, I have no idea. By the time that's even on somebody's radar, I'll be an old man. You know what I mean? So who knows? I do hope that happens though, because I look at like one of my favorite movies of all time is Talk to Me by one of my idols and inspirations, Petey Green. Petey Green was a radio personality out of DC. Don Cheadle played him in a movie back in the day. So I mean, I don't know. Who knows?
We're gonna get to that. What's the biggest takeaway you've learned in therapy?
Ooh, so many, man. The biggest takeaway I've learned in therapy. The biggest takeaway I think I've learned in therapy is probably be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. I think we're very, very, very hard on ourselves, you know, and I think this era of social media and just this era that we live in where you're not even, it seems like you're never allowed to make a mistake. Like you're never allowed to say the wrong thing. Like so much so that people will go back 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and it's almost like I'm in the Marvels, right? So in the Marvel universe, they have these multiverses where they have all these different variants of characters. So it's like you're gonna really take the 20-year-old me and try to compare it to the 43-year-old me. It's like that brother don't even exist anymore. And for somebody like me who grew up, first book my dad ever gave me was the autobiography of Malcolm X. When I read that, I understood evolution. I understood transformation. I understood growth. And when I started studying, you know, the Nation of Islam teachings and and I read, you know, the Message to the Black Man by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, or seeing Cassius Clay go from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali. Like, I thought life was all about growth. I thought life was all about evolution. So it's weird that, you know, we live in this era where people just always want to hold you to the worst parts of your existence, you know, reduce you to the worst things you've ever said. And yeah, for me, it's just being kind to yourself, because you know we'll see that we'll beat up on ourselves just for the things that we know about ourselves, but then beat up on ourselves for the things people are saying about us, you know. So I just think we got to be kind to ourselves. That's the biggest thing I think I learned in therapy. Be kind to yourself.
I love that, because each year during the NBA draft, my red and white suit with my Mari Gators represent Detroit gets shown. And to some people, it's the greatest thing they've seen. To some people, they want to clown it. It's the worst thing that they've seen. But I ain't have a budget, and I was representing my hometown. But what they don't see was when I look at that picture, I think about the night before, how I was trying to pick the bump from underneath my eye with alcohol all night. Or like my skin was really bad and I had a bald head, and I'm like, man, I'm about to be on the big stage right now. And so when I look at that picture, I see pain.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And so when I see my new draft picture, when it's 2020 and 21, I see success. And I know exactly what you mean. So I appreciate you acknowledging that level of growth. And last but certainly not least, please go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that you're absolutely right, because I look at myself when I was younger, and that's exactly what I see. I see trauma, I see pain, I see hurt, and you know that's why it was so easy for me to project that hurt on a lot of people when I was, you know, younger in the game. I didn't even realize that's what I was doing. In my mind, I'm keeping it real,
right?
You know, but really, I'm really just projecting hurt on people,
right?
So yes, I totally understand what you mean.
So, what advice would you give? And this is last but not least, what advice would you give young radio journalists that want to get into this game?
Be yourself. Like, truly, honestly, wholeheartedly be your authentic self. Don't get caught up in being a second-rate version of anybody, you know, because that's what I did. When they called me Hip Hop Howard Stern, I'm like, oh, I'm about to be the Hip Hop Howard Stern, not even understanding the whole totality of Howard Stern. You know what I mean? I only saw parts of Howard Stern. So I started doing that type of stuff, like, you know, so I didn't understand the brilliant interviewer that Howard, you know, Stern is. And that's why even now when I see people give Howard Stern flack for not being the same at 60-something that he was, the wild dude at 20, I'm like, he's 60-something years old. He's been to therapy. He's done work on himself. Like, what do you want him to do at this point? So, yeah, I would just tell everybody, truly be your authentic self, man, because if you're talented, whatever you truly are is enough. And don't be afraid to take people on that journey, because I've seen so many radio personalities be stuck, you know, still putting their hat on backwards and dyeing their beard and, you know, yes, y'all, and then still trying to be the young man, but you're really the old man in the club now.
Right, smelling like a pound.
That's right. It's like, yo, don't be afraid to grow up in front of people and evolve in front of people. So I would just tell people, man, just truly be your real, authentic self. Don't get caught up in being a caricature of anybody else. Or if you see something working for somebody else, don't think that's your lane. Like, really, really, really find out who you are, because this game is all about your voice. Right. And you gotta really find your voice, because when you're different and you got something really unique to say and a story that people have never heard before, it's going to transcend way better than trying to be a second-rate version, a third-rate version of somebody else.
And you got to be yourself all of the time.
That's right.
So I love and appreciate you, my brother.
I love you
And
and
we
appreciate
definitely
you too,
gonna
King.
get up and break bread. We're stronger with our voices, our ability to not only rally our people, but rally one another. Look forward to catching up and breaking bread with you soon.